Welcome to Watercolor Studio 42, and today I'm going to go back and do a floral. A friend of mine gave me some pictures from one of the art books that she had, and actually she's one of my students, very nice lady, and so she gave me some pictures, so I figured, well, I kind of use these, you know, maybe give it with a tape or something afterwards. But the thing is that I like to kind of keep my flowers kind of loose. I brought this along. It's one I did a while ago, and what I try to do is have an uneven number. You know, when you only have a couple of flowers, you want to make sure it's at least 3, and you can vary the size a little bit. You can go large, medium, small, whatever, so that it creates a little bit of the illusion of depth that way. And then the background, I just put some different little washes. I usually wet the paper first, you know, wet in the and then paint into that, wet into wet, and do the background. And then lately I've been kind of outlining with a marker. I use a permanent marker so it doesn't bleed or run if it gets hit with water when you paint around it. But then the white is actually the white of the paper. Now, to create the paper to be whiter, you put a darker shadow or something against the white, and then the white jumps out. You know, so the old saying is, the darker the shadow, the brighter the day type of thing. Or the brighter the day, the darker the shadows. And that's something to keep in mind when you're outside painting sometimes. So I kind of keep it a little bit loose if I can. And sometimes I don't know exactly the name of the flower, so I kind of refer to the flower as a generic flower type of thing. You can guess whatever title you want to give them. So let's put this back up on the easel there. Set that up there. Whoopsie daisy. We put a ruler across here to set on. Sometimes they don't want to set there too good. Yeah, good. I spend half a day just trying to get the picture back up there. Now, so anyways, I've done a kind of a pencil sketch. Sometimes I go over a little bit. Lately, it depends on what I'm working with. And sometimes I outline it like I did here with the permanent marker. But sometimes they just start out. Now, after it dries, then I can come back in and I can hit some of the darker areas where I want the flower to be a little bit more noticeable. And as I've talked about before, I sort of work from the back to the front. In other words, do the background, then I do the green part, the leaves, and then the finale is the actually blossoms, the flower itself. So it's 1, 2, 3, and usually I try to make the background different shades, you know, relatively so. Now in this case, this one here, it has sort of a broken up background. You get patches, a real deeper color here, lighter color, lighter here, opposite corners, and then you got the light to darker shades. And if you look real close at this particular, you probably can't pick it up on your TV, but it does have some warmer colors into that. You know, some of the darker has some greens in it. Over here it has a little bit of red, obviously yellow background, whatnot. So anyways, so we'll see what we can do. And my style, I just can't get too fussy. I have to do something within an hour or two of painting sometimes. if I work on it too long, then I start doing too much. And it's better, less is always better, okay? Okay, so let's get started here. Now, I start with a big brush. This happens to be a 1-inch flat. Dip it in the water, and I'm just going to wet my watercolor paper, just the background. Just the background. And that can be put on very, very loose. You don't have to be fussy about your brush strokes here. Just get some water on the paper. You don't want to get too heavy with the water, and kind of make the background a little bit broken up, if you can. Okay, this is part of the table. 1/3 is the table, and 2/3 the background. So we kind of dabble around in here. Probably by the time I get down to the table, which is my finale, probably it'll be dry, so I'll have to re-wet it, the paper again. Okay, here we go. My pencil sketch is just a 2B pencil, nothing fancy. It's a regular pencil that you would write with, sketch with. Okay. I have to just make sure I don't have puddles. I just push the puddles around or off the edge. It looks like we're pretty well all set on that. So now, when I do the background, I'm going to do some of my lighter shades first, and then I'll top it off with some of the dark. So what I'm going to do here for the background, I've got a little bit of this, let's see, not that one. Oh yeah, I could use that one. I don't want to use green yet. Here we go. Let's put a little bit of this shading in here. Okay. Now this section here is broken up a little bit. You see, when you wet the paper first and then you put the color into it, you're not going to get hard edges. It's going to dry soft. It will dry sort of soft edges into the grain of your watercolor paper. Of course, watercolor paper, you know, you can buy the expensive watercolor paper is usually all cotton. And the less expensive paper, which they manufacture, is textured, but it's wood pulp paper. And of course they bleach the paper. You can get watercolor paper that has a little darker shade to it, a little bit more of an ivory color. And then you can get paper that's been bleached out very, very white. So, and then as far as the weight of the paper goes, I usually use 140 cold press, and they have the press idea is 3 types of paper. You get watercolor cold press is probably the most popular. It's in between being a rough surface and a smooth. And then you get your hot press, which is very smooth surface, and then you got the rough, which is what it is. It's a little bit rougher surface, a little bit bumpier. Okay, so we'll get some of this wash in here. This up and through here is going to be real dark. This whole area over in here is going to be quite dark. Okay, now that's the first coat. Now we can come back in, and if you want to add just a pinch, I'm just going to put a little bit more yellow in some of this. You can do that. You can put some, warm it up a bit here. Not that today needs to be warmed up, believe me. Very, very warm outside. Here we go. But we'll just put some of that, mix that right in there. And let's see what we're going to do with the contour. I kind of like sometimes the flower to go to the edge of the paper, so it's not locked in all the way around. It kind of goes out a bit. So we'll see what happened with some of it. Okay, just a little bit more yellow shade in here. Warm that up a bit over in here. And then we're going to just put some of that back over on this side. Warm it up over here. I'm kind of looking at the picture itself to see what the artist did with it. It looks like this looks like burnt sienna in here. That's a little bit of brown with some red paint in it. Okay. Something like that. So now, if you have too many little puddles, you can always touch that up. Now, as far as the leaves go, they've spent a little bit more time in this particular painting to go more into the leaf shapes. But you don't have to do too much. You don't have to go into that much. If you want the leaves to have a little bit of yellow in them, you can do that. Just add a little bit of my yellow into my green, and we'll see what we can do with it. Let's blot this out here. I like the edges to be soft in places, but I don't want it too soft all the way around. I don't want everything to be too sharp either. So we'll just drop a little bit of strategically located in here, a little bit around up in here. We can have this go out here a little bit more. I'm going to blot this right in here. Take some of that color out of there. I want to put a flower there, that's why. Now, in here, you can have it come down. You can shape it a little bit, see if you can get a point on some of the leaves. You can sort of tap around, wiggle the brush around, use the sharp edge, or use the flat edge sometimes, but not as much when you're doing the leaves. I think you have to kind of work around a little bit. Okay, I put a little bit more yellow in there. Okay, some areas the leaves are going to be a little bit more pronounced. Let's see if I can do something in here. Maybe something that's going to go out into there. Fill this one in a little bit more. Down in here. Okay. Now right in here, I probably might drop a speck of something. Something green, huh? A little bit. And then this can go out a little bit towards the edge. We can go up into here if you want with something. Offset it a bit. I usually put a mark where the center is vertically as well as horizontal. And I always know where the center of the paper is, so put a dot with a pencil, just to remind myself. Sometimes I put arrows on the paper that indicate where the direction of the light is, source is coming from. Here it's hard to tell. It looks like the light is almost down on the flowers, but nothing strong coming in from the left or the right side. Here we go. Okay. Something like that. I like the way that came out. Kind of smudgy, blurry, but that's all right. We can touch it up a little bit with a marker or a brush, thin brush. A lot of times when I do pictures, I'll paint them, let them set overnight, then I'll come back and look at them the next day, and it's really dried out. It's, it's faded out, whatever. The paint is absorbed more into the paper, and then I know how to go about somehow how to finish it off, what it might need. Now, some pictures need next to nothing, and some almost should be done again, almost to the point, of redoing the whole picture again, probably, because you've got too much to correct or just like building a house sometimes. You have to decide whether you want to fix up the old barn or build a brand new, spanking new barn or school or whatever that might be. Okay, put a little dab of that in there. Now, there's probably going to be a little extra, little fussy work as we go along here. But that's about what I'm going to do on that one. Oh, you could have something that's on the table, you know, a leaf or something that fell off. I don't want to give that too much attention, though. Okay, so we've gone this far. Now, I kind of sometimes sit back and let it dry a little bit, but you can kind of clean your brush out a bit here, and you could try some of that darker color up into the corner. So let's go up into the corner with some of that sepia. It's a very dark shade of brown. Now, no matter how hard I try sometimes, I never get the color as dark as what the picture is that I'm looking at. For some reason, I don't like to get too solid a color anywhere. So, but that's me. I got a hang up about that, I guess. Let's work around here. I'm going to stop right about in there, like where it is in the picture, about 2/3 across. And then we're going to come around here. I always come in from the edge, if you can. Come in, pull the paint in from the outside, like this, and then work around some of the shapes. I'm looking down over here, where the dark meets with the lighter shades of color. Okay, I kind of see how the edges are broken up a bit. Now, you're never going to, well, you could, I suppose, if you tried real hard, to copy this. I probably could put tracing paper on it and kind of make this picture that I'm looking at, you know, probably more real to what it is. But I never do. I use it just kind of as a reference. But you'll never find me ever trying to copy anything, unless it's necessary that you do make it exactly, you know, like it's supposed to be. Now, what we're doing here, we're going to get a little dark around here. In this picture, there's a vase in there somewhere. I'm just going to kind of get some of the shape. The way this vase is, it looks like it's tilted, and I'm going to make it flatter, a little flatter across the bottom than that picture. Okay, and again, you can push the color up in there with this edge of your brush here. Okay, something like that. And some of the edges don't have to be that hard, so you can water it down a little bit around the edges. Let the paint kind of fuzz in. It gets fuzzy sometimes when it goes wet into wet. Something like this. Yeah, just make it shapes look interesting. And let's see, up into here maybe. Yeah, so my picture's not going to be exactly, well, far from it probably, from what I'm looking at. There's a little bit of a darker shade up in here. Just lighten that up a bit. And work around. There are different shades in that. Like I said, some of that background, it has more red in it, like a burnt sienna type of thing. I might put some, maybe if I get to it, I'll do something like that. And then as you get down towards the end of the table, that just kind of fades away. You just kind of pull the edges out a little bit. And they've got little pieces of paper on the table, whether you want to leave that in there. You could leave it kind of lighter if you want, something like this. You know, and then go into the corner. Something like that. I think the problem with a lot of paintings is that, especially with watercolor, we try to get too uptight. And usually when you're starting out painting, you'll try to paint everything so precise, every stroke, whatever. And see what you do here, you paint wet in the wet, and you let the paint kind of, ooze out and sort of smudge out, if you will, and into different areas. Now, if you want to keep that darker, you can just come in a little stronger here, right through there. And even that, if you don't like that edge, you just wet it down and soften that out. And it does the rest itself. I don't think you have to spend an awful lot of time trying to make these things too perfect. Well, at least that's how I feel about it. I mean, let's face it, you're not trying to be a camera. You're not trying to really, take a realistic likeness to something. It's your interpretation of something and how you interpret it. And everybody sees it different. You could have the same recipe, like making cookies at home. Everybody gets the exact same recipe. All the ingredients are the same. Just like with the paint, all the colors might be the same. You might use the same size brushes, and the individual will just interpret it a little bit different, And so that's what makes art, I guess, interesting. Because somebody said one time, well, there's no real right or wrong unless you really try to go overboard and make it look like a mud pie. But other than that, there's no real, this should have been done this way or that way. No, everybody has a little bit of a different way of interpreting things. And sometimes you can help them a little bit with it, enhance whatever it is that they're doing, but you don't want to just take away too much from them. What they're trying to do in their interpretation of something. So sometimes you could develop a particular style, and which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to break this up over here. It's kind of a larger area. I kind of left a lot of the foreground, the tabletop here, if you want that to be the tabletop. I use I pinch the brush out sometimes, pick up some of the paint with the brush. Use the brush like a sponge. Okay, so far I'm keeping it loose, okay? And I think I'm keeping it loose because I'm sticking with a big brush. I can't get too fussy with what I have I'm working with. Now, I can come back, I could still use, that's a 1-inch flat. But I thought I had another flat in here that was not that one. Oh, here it is. This is a 1/2 inch, but it's still a flat across the bottom. Now, I can come back in, and now I'm going to start doing some of the pinks. And I always start off with very, very soft color. Now, if you want, you can wet that area, or you can paint like I just did. I painted wet on the dry part. But you can come in, just wiggle the brush around, and get some color on the paper. Now, you take that color that you have and you put it somewhere else, right? Sprinkle it somewhere else, and that's what kind of pulls everything together. Harmonizes your composition, distribution of color. I used to call it echoing the color, you know, hello, 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 you know, whatever. I used to add some vocal to it. Okay, I'm just kind of dabbling around. You can even squint. What you're looking at, you squint, look at it, and just see sort of the basic shape of it. Whatever. A little bit more up into here. Where's the center? Oh, that could have a center right in there. Something like that. We'll paint some pink in there. If some of the pink goes into the green, that's okay. All right. Now, this has some other flower too. It's got some purple, porphyry blue in there. Maybe I can hit it with some of that, fill in some of the empty spots. See, let's do some of this up here. You want, if the color's a little bit dark, just hit it with water, erase it, and use your paper towel, clean spot on your towel, and blot it, make it lighter. You can't do that so much with some of the other color, like oil paint. You wouldn't want to be blotting it. You'd have a messy towel, you know, all over your hands too. Let's see what else. Something else in there maybe. No, I'm not sure about that. I just take that shape and just push it around and blot it. Yeah. I might not keep that there. I was just trying to kind of push it out a little bit the way it is over here. Okay. Now, looking around, you can see some spots that need some paint in there. This might be a good place to put some of that blue color too. Okay. Now, while you're working on this, you come back and look at the picture, and when it starts to set up, you can come back and probably hit it with a little bit of a deeper shade. Some, you know, put some shadow on some of the flowers, some, you know, in places. Maybe something like that. Move around, maybe a little stronger up in here. Something like that. Okay. Now, I wasn't thinking about blue, but you can put some of that purplish color back in there. I don't really carry purple, but sometimes I just take I have my quinacridone rose, which is actually alizarin crimson, and my quinacridone rose kind of mixes good with the blue, makes a nice purple. Jump around a little bit here. Okay, now we'll try some of that. Now, what do I have for blue? I might have put the blue away here somewhere. Yeah, I put it back in the bag thinking I wasn't going to use it today, but I think I will. Let's grab this big tube. I know that's blue. Here we go. We'll put a little dab of blue up in here. Okay, a little bit. Wow. Sometimes the paint gets a little bit firm around the top there. Now, we can take a little bit, we got the blue, take some of this, quinacridone rose, use my nose. I've had an allergy, I think, all summer long. Everybody I talked to, they said they've been bothered with the allergies this summer. Yep. I think I've got the color I want to use. We'll see. You get that little bit of a sort of a purplish tone to it. I think I've got it pretty well. A little bit over here, down in here. Try to kind of jump around. Maybe something in there. Not so much up in here, but that doesn't mean to say I can't do something with that. Now, you could say I'm copying another artist's painting, but I'm certainly not trying to make it look exactly like that person's painting. I've changed it quite a bit. And let's see what else I can do here. I may have to take a smaller brush and come back in here and touch up a little bit. It jumps out too much. Hit it with a paper towel. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. Now, eventually, I've got a lot of white in here, so I may have to come back in. What the artist did, they just dropped some of that darker color in there, that deep brown. It could be like sepia. As far as my browns go, I use sepia a lot of times. Now, I'm trying to find a... Nope. I think I'll use... Well, I could use... Yeah, I think I'll use this one and this one. Between these two. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is come back in. And what I've got to work around... And I think I'm going to put a little bit, I'm going to push some of that darker shade around the contour of some of the petals here. But what I'm trying to do is actually fill in some of that background. Make it a little bit darker so you don't see so much white. Bring this down through here. And you can have that sort of fade out in there. Maybe work some of that in here. Definitely down through here, around some of these shapes. Whoops, got carried away. Yeah. Okay. Now, if something looks a little bit too busy, like it looks all this little curly, you can fill that in a little bit more. And you can take your brush and lift some of the paint out or pull it So you get a different shade in there too, you know, instead of coming out into the light. So that's what I'm going to be doing, a lot of that kind of dancing around here. Let's put some dark up in here. I'm looking at this little shape in here. We'll put that back up in there. We can outline around some of these contours here, make it a lot darker through here. Now when you do that, what you have to do is take this color here and pull it back. Just pull the edge off. So it kind of blends back in there and doesn't, it looks like a shadow rather than another shape, not another object in there. Just pull it right to the edge. And let's see if we can work around here. Now we got all of this light area here, which doesn't exist. So I can take some of that out and just pull this down here and make it a softer, just a softer color in there. And I can leave a little speck in there of highlight like that. Okay, when you go around the edges. A lot of times this gets a little bit fussy. You know, you get into all this little working around the shapes, but you got to do that to make it look like more like the shape of the flower. Okay, you can put some of these specks in here, break that up a little bit more. If something looks too light, I'll come back and hit that with another color later. Now around here, we may want to cut into this a little bit more. Yes, make a darker area right in there. Up in here, maybe a little bit more. Bring that in there. You're going around the contours of some of the petal shapes. And once you go that way, it just makes the flower jump out a little bit more. But this is the part that's a little bit time consuming, because you have to be a little bit more fussier with it, slow down a bit, control your brush stroke somewhat more. Okay, too many spots in there, just take them out. Okay, that looks kind of busy here too, just erase some of that in there. Okay. Break up that edge a little bit more. So you're kind of dancing around here, just taking out a lot of the white part. It gets a little bit fussy, as I mentioned a few seconds ago. It does get a little bit tricky. That's why I use a little brush for some of this. You want certain things to jump out like right through here. You take your brush and just go right up around the edge, pull it back away from that. See how you can make that stand out a little bit more. Same way with in here, this doesn't have to be white around that. You can fill that in, makes that flower. And you can cut into that shape too, a little bit more. Okay, a lot of white too here. So you can kind of dance around a little bit here. Let's see what else we can do. We got, I say, what else we can do. There's quite a bit to do, actually. Sometimes when you get into flowers, even though you try to make it look easy, it's not that easy sometimes. So I don't know if I'm going to have time to kind of do all of this today, but I can do a little bit more. But, you know, when you get it home, you can see what needs to be finished up on it. Okay, now this vase here, it really got kind of fuzzy. So what I may have to do is come back in and make that stronger through here so that it brings back some of the shape of the vase. Across the bottom maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more of a shadow too, coming away from it. Bigger brush. Let's go back to the 1/2 inch flat. Get a lot more done quicker. Okay. Work that around through here. I probably should do more flowers because you do have to kind of get into the groove of it more so. Lately I've been doing a lot of buildings, cottages down by the waterfront, which I don't think lately it has been a good idea to have places too close to the water. Okay. Now out in here, I gotta soften that out, so take that edge away. Make that corner a little darker. Okay. Now, as far as the balance goes, I may have to kind of bring a little bit more into here and so forth. As far as that goes. Do a little bit more with this. Now, what I was talking about, you could take this color here and you could work this back like some warmer values out into here. You know, if you want to take a little bit of orange, you could try it, see what it does. But you could sort of warm it up a little bit in there. Repeat it over here somewhere. Warm it up a bit. Okay. Now, let's see what we got here. Of course, I could add a few more stems, whatnot, but wash the clock a little bit here. I don't know if I want to do that. We don't want that much red in there, so might have to quiet it down a bit. But it does carry over, doesn't it? The balance of that. Okay. All right. So, you know, you kind of get the idea. Now, in here, I may have to backtrack because I'm not showing strong enough the edge of the bowl. So what I may have to do is come back into here and take some of that out. Lift it out of there as much as I can. I can put white in there, touch it up again, but I thought that I was losing the edge right in through here. Maybe I can put it back in. Use some of that sepia, almost full strength here. and kind of get that back in there. Okay. There's some things that need to be worked on. I'm up in here. That looks kind of funny. Sometimes I'm trying to put little Mickey Mouse ears on here. I'm going to erase some of that. Might have to take the big brush and pull that right out in a hurry. Something like that. That corner still is really dark. Up, you put some of that sepia back in there, over in this corner. This one here actually is a little bit more, got a lot of warm value in that. That's the one where you probably could put some more warmer color. I don't want to get carried away, but you probably warm that up a little bit more in here on that side. Okay, well, I guess there's a little bit more work to do. Using a very fine brush, like one of those, what they call a rigger, you can put some of the little stems coming out of here and over here, just to carry it out, kind of flare it out just a little bit more. There might be some more work in here to get more of a contrast around in there. So what you do is put a little bit more shadow. I don't know if I got enough paint on the brush to do that, but that can be darker in here. Just take your big brush, just pull it back, kind of pull it to the edge. Touch it, feather touch, really soft touch. Just sort of soften it out in there. Still need some more work on that. This looks like a big smudge in there, so I may have to do something, probably hit it with my white, and then come back and retouch it up. We'll see what happens. As far as the balance goes, I'm a little bit, maybe a little bit heavy here. I might have to do some more, put some more weight over on the left side. But anyways, I'm just going to pull the tape, and sometimes this comes up easier than other times. I try to put tabs so that I can catch it, but sometimes it doesn't always work as well. You want to do this with no paint on your fingertips, because otherwise you'll get the paint on your white. Oh, a little bit tricky here. Well, that doesn't want to get started. Oh, I got a little bit. Wow, that's good tape. That's very good tape. Let's get some of this off of here. Once you get it started, it goes pretty fast. Sometimes it goes too fast. Now, what we may need is, like I said, a little bit more, kind of more focus around here, wherever it needs a little bit more oomph in detail. Of course, when you put the center of the flower in, when you put a little bit of that center, let's put something like that in there. That does make a difference also, I'll put one over in here somewhere. Something like that. But by adding the little centers to the flowers, that would help that a lot. But here we go. This gives you an idea what you have to do. But like I said, I start with a kind of a quick sketch and paint that way. You know, try to paint more spontaneous, and so you keep your paint kind of consistent. You know, you can't get fussy in one spot and go crazy in another. Keep it pretty consistent. Do your background, then do the green. I probably should have worked on the green a little longer, and then you finish off the flowers, which I still have to be a little bit more fussy with the flowers, and just make sure I get more of a contrast there between the darker background and the flower shape themselves. So that's it for this day. So we'll add this to our collection up here. I don't know if it's going to stay there. I'm pushing my luck trying to put too many paintings up there at once. Something. Well, anyways, you get the idea. You get the idea. But the thing is that then you leave some room for your signature maybe down there. I usually sign it on the lower right-hand corner, and then you let it go. But like I said, there's just some little finishing touches, and sometimes you can't tell what needs to be done until you let it really dry out and the colors settle in, and then you can see what, a little better what needs to be done. So that's it for this week, folks. We're running a little bit earlier today, so I'm buying some time. But keep aware of some of the art shows and things in the area that are coming up at the Art Museum and the Watercolor Society over in Rhode Island, at Slater Park, and so forth, and keep in touch with that. And so I hope you will be with us next time, and until then, take care and brushes up. We'll see you. Thanks.